Welcome everybody, my name is RJ Ramsey and today we're going to talk about the film that I shot, Conundrum. As you can see in the opening title sequence, I wanted to kind of hit you right in the face with something cool, dramatic, and shiny, and with mystery. And so as you can see, you can by looking at this, you can tell that this has something to do with maybe outer space, but that's what I was going for. The opening title sequences are something that I really enjoy doing when making films, because this gives me an opportunity to leave breadcrumbs to kind of give you hints as to what you might be getting into. As you can see right here, there is my son who plays the young man Simeon, and then you have the planet Earth, so you know that it has something to do with outer space. And then next it moves on to the gaming controller, so you have this young man who plays video games that might be involved with something with space. So it really intrigues you and makes you wonder, like, okay, I gotta watch this to see what's going on here. And so that's what I was going for with the opening title sequences in this part right here. I absolutely love this part right here because I didn't rely on post-production to do what I needed to do. I had my camera on the tripod, and then I have these wheels that I bought on Amazon specifically for tripods. And I just slowly pushed my camera in and gave it that nice homemade dolly-like shot, and it was beautiful. And I loved it because it was a nice opening to kind of establish what's going on here in this scene. And I wanted to punch directly into the house and not necessarily have an establishing shot of the house, because I wanted to show and get right to the story. This part right here was where I used in post-production to allow it to zoom in. I blurred out the background of the video game. I lined all of the shots up with the music to make it just that much more intense. And then I sat a light onto the computer stand so it was facing my son, so it looked like he was actually watching the game. And this is where I allowed like my wife to stand there and hold that light, so when it glitched out, she just turned that light off and it looked perfect, like the TV was glitching out on him. So I was trying to figure out how I could do that, and that was the best way I could do it. So kudos to my wife on that. And then this part right here, this is where, I left it dark because it was a little bit of confusion. He didn't understand what was going on. And then that's, it was a perfect bridge to the next part of the film. So now he goes back to playing the game. And so here, I did another glitch, but what I like is that I didn't want to reveal too much of the game. I didn't want to get caught up on any copyright infringement and stuff like that. But there were some moments where I had to redo the audio. So I had my son come into the studio and I had to basically have him read those lines, and I had to sync those lines up with some of the lines that we did when we shot the original shot. But this is where it gets interesting. Now it goes out, and then I had to also blur out the background of Call of Duty because I didn't kind of want that to be shown. But then when it gets to the part where the screen starts to rumble, I went into the effects control panel and made adjustments to the up, down, left, and right to kind of give it the look like the room was shaking from that sound that I thought was pretty cool. And this happened on several occasions throughout the film. Every time you heard that loud horn-like sound, which was almost scary to listen to, and it was perfect for the film because it was like gut-wrenching, and it made me feel that way too. So I was very pleased with that part. This shot right here was really fun to do because I had to put my drone up in the air. My son's room is in the second floor of my house, and so when he took that peek out the window, I was like, how am I going to get this shot? So I put my drone up in the air, had it hover for a little bit. We did that a couple times until we got it right, and then we moved on. When he makes his way out of the room, I took the clip and I doubled it, I layered it, and then I dragged it over like 2 or 3 frames to kind of give that distortion look, because this was a moment of confusion for Simeon. So I wanted to kind of bring that out in the footage. And then as we're trailing down the hallway, I could see there's natural camera shake, and that was intentional because I was hand holding the camera, but I wanted to show the disorientation of Simeon and how he was just trying to figure out what is actually going on here. Why is this sound happening? And I was trying to portray that the best I could, and I thought it turned out beautifully. Now this shot right here is a first peek at what Simeon is about to get into. When he looks out the window from the front door. I put a reflection of the spaceship in the window, and that was to kind of give just an opening hint as to what's about to happen here, because from the opening title sequences you see Earth, you see the video game, and you see Simeon. So now we've introduced a new part of the story. This is where everything starts to kind of like develop, and this is where he goes outside, and it gets really, really interesting from here. And this shot right here, I used natural light to show how he was in darkness. He's coming out the front door, he's in darkness, and then he steps out into the light. And from that light is what he sees when he looks up at the sky. He sees the spaceship. What I was really proud of, and I was like trying to figure it out, I even had this in my head. I was like, how am I going to show this shot of him looking up in the sky? So first, I brought my ladder out. I climbed up the ladder, and I had my FX6 in hand, and I was pointing down at my son and to show him looking at the spaceship. And then it transitioned from that to the drone shot to show the spaceship slowly pulling away. I used some assets from Motion Array and Production Crate and a few other places to be able to pull together the spaceship and to give it that realistic look. I did some compositing in Adobe After Effects, and that kind of brought out the spaceships just a little bit more, especially as the smaller one started to materialize. This part right here was probably the most fun I got to do with the film right here. I acted in my own film, and I played the spaceman. I gave him that deep voice. That was done in post-production in Adobe Audition, where I have assets through Waves plugins, because I make music as well. So I was able to manipulate his voice to give it that Darth Vader, James Earl Jones, that mysterious feel, along with the music that kind of backed it up. I took assets from Big Films and Production Crate, meshed them together to kind of make the portal look the way it does. The spaceman, myself, I did that. I shot that outside, but what I did was I rotoscoped it in After Effects and then created the layers so I can kind of make that look the way it did. That was really fun. That took a long time to do, but I was really pleased with that. Could it be better? It could be, because I can probably use some more work to kind of shape that up a little bit, but I was fairly proud of myself for what I've accomplished to be able to get that done in a short amount of time. So now that brings us to the end of the movie, and that part right there was like the best part. It was the most fun part, and I have to give a shout out and credit to Professor Tommy, because this right here is what sparked me to be able to create this very last scene. And it wasn't necessarily in the original script, but I was like, I got to do something to kind of leave it on a much more impactful note. So I took assets from Big Films. It was just a picture of a spaceship interior, and then I went into Photoshop. I cut out the windows, I cut out the little TV screen that you see there in the back, and then I took that and composited that image into Photoshop and then brought it back into Adobe Premiere. And then I took some footage of space, and then I layered that behind it to look like the spaceship is traveling through space. Then I adjusted the lighting to kind of make it look like the spaceman is in the spaceship, in which this was done in a green screen in my living room. I set up my green screen. I have a 10 by 20 foot green screen and set it up in my living room and made this scene happen. I took some footage, some stock footage of just computer statistics, and I took that and scaled it down. I ran a Gaussian blur on the background so it shows like a little bit of a shallow depth of field, so it looks like there's a real scene. It looks real and believable, so the image isn't completely flat. And so that took a lot of work to put this last piece together. But this right here is what made me feel the most, that I just ended on such a great note. That him being on the tablet, the adding of the holographic symbols coming up when he's punching in on the tablet, even when he takes his helmet off, and just the sound effects of the pressure released from the helmet. And so this right here is one of my most proud moments. In this short 6-minute film, I think I ended it out with a bang. I'm pleased with it. I'm glad you guys came here with me on this journey, and I look forward to the next film. See y'all later. Peace.